the history. So if I allow me to do that,
Please.
when we do the rehearsal, I thought I am going to cover the third part, but if Asa can start, I'm happy. But I can talk about the Babylonian scientist, but we did have script actually to make the flow. So I would like to ask Acer to start. Sorry, Anwar. I cannot change the script she designed, if you don't mind. Acer, can you hear me?
Okay, if you don't mind, Anwar, is that all right with you? Please mute it. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and good afternoon. Thank you, Anwar, for inviting us for the second time on your cultural show. It's a pleasure to be here. Last year, we focused on the Hanging Gardens, the what is usually known as the Babylon Hanging Garden, and it was one of the seven ancient world wonders. We're following from that today to talk about actually the civilizations that brought up everything in old Mesopotamia, which is actually mainly Iraq today and parts of Syria and a little bit of Iran as well. Um, um, Mesopotamia is known to be the cradle of civilization. There is always these debates about which one was first. Is it the Egyptian civilization or the Mesopotamian? No matter which one is, obviously it is one of the first. We had Sumerian civilization first, and then Akkadian or Agadian, and then came the first Babylonian dynasty, which was around nearly 2,000 years BC. The Babylonian dynasty started and ruled from central and southern part of Mesopotamia, which is again the southern half of Iraq today, and there are quite a few famous names at that from that dynasty. They did expand. They started there, but they did expand east and west. And probably it is interesting to know that the name Babylon means gate to the gods. It is considered Babylon as the biggest city of its time in the first dynasty and later on in the second dynasty. So that's a brief about the Babylonian. Rula will take us a little bit on highlights of that time history. Okay, I'll leave it to Rula now.
Hello. So yes, the first dynasty had a very important king called King Hammurabi, and he was most renowned for being, well, first of all, he was the sixth in that dynasty, ruling from 1792 BC to 1750 BC. And he's most famous for the first written law in history, known as Hammurabi's Code of Law. And this law consisted of around 282 laws concerning family, town and business life, alongside women's legal rights, which considered like property or engagement as well in business, and their right to divorce as well. If, of course, they were badly treated by their husband, alongside highlighting their duties in marriage. All of which was written in cuneiform on a black stela or pillar, I suppose you can call it, made of black stone. And because it was the first form of written language, it made it a lot more precious, I think. And although there are other, I guess, laws previously, but this is the one that was, I guess, kept on for so long because of the being written onto this black pillar. And actually, this pillar can be found in the Louvre in Paris, which is quite a good thing to have it kept on display nowadays. So the carving actually atop of that stela shows Shamash, who is the god of justice, handing symbols to Hammurabi, because obviously he was a very prestigious man who had laid down the law. Babylonian women also had many professions during this time, from being musicians to textile creators, alongside being midwives and even doctors, which is again quite for me, I feel like this area of the Middle East was actually a lot more ahead of this time than other places maybe in the world. Additionally, we've got Assyria, but I'm not sure if it's difficult to that just yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Let's cover
Babylonian
the first
dynasty.
Babylonian dynasty.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, Anwar, we can hand things to Dr. Ali now.
Thank you very much.
You are muted.
Anwar, we always respect that. Ladies first. Lesson learned. So that was what we have now. So let me talk about the first Babylonian, about the scientist, and I'm really interested as a person who work in the higher education. Babylonian were amazing at mathematics. I love that, utilizing Pythagoras and the multiplication table. Also, they could perform advanced arithmetic calculation, solve quadratic equations. Unearthed tablets shown of use of squares of numbers up to 59 and the cubes of numbers up to 32. They calculate the square number, square roots, cube number, cube roots. Babylonians were implementing Pythagoras' theorem over 1,000 of years before Pythagoras was born. I'm really here keen to talk about intellectual property and who did what before, and as I'm biased here, and I'm with this opinion. I think Professor Jim Khalili also did mention that Babylonian did implement Pythagoras' theorem before Pythagoras was born, and they had sophisticated geometrical calculation to track Jupiter across the night sky, using method for estimating the area, a curve by drawing trapezoid, a four-sided figure underneath. This helped track the position of Jupiter as well as its speed and distance that it traveled. Actually, this technique is known as a fundamental, known to be fundamental to physics, which was taught to have originated in the 14th century AD in Europe. Babylon was the largest city of its time during Hammurabi's period or regime, and was the first city to reach 200,000 occupant by that time. And imagine it's a little bit smaller than Milton Keynes, but by that time the whole population, I don't know what was that. I'm not that expert, but 200,000. I really thought about the higher education or the education. How did it work? Is it small group? Is it discussion group? Is it organized by the government or by temple? I think the temple was the area or the place where responsible for education at different level. I'm now handed into to Acer. to start to talk about the next period, Assyria.
Unless you have any questions, Anwar, about the first dynasty, the Babylonian. Can you hear us?
You are muted, Anwar.
Yes.
You're still muted, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I'm fine. No, what was interesting is how the introduction by Rula about the Babylonian women taking lead further in the field in many aspects, but the element of hospital, and I believe that the hospital and keeping care, like what we have NHS now, they may have had sophisticated systems introduced at that time, for which hasn't been exposed and expanded, how that civilization was sophisticated in that period, and they were taking lead, and that's fascinating very much in the areas of well-being and mental health, miscarriages, baby delivering. All that care element was already in the blueprint for the present civilization.
And there were laws for all of that.
No. So it is our views to know how different civilization in Iraq it was brought further and taken lead, and we don't really appreciate, mostly because we've never been educated in the British education system. It's not been exposed. But I'll hand it over to you, Isa, about the second phase. Please take us in this journey.
Thank you, Anwar. I do agree with you. In the British education system, for whatever reason, I didn't find any reference to the Mesopotamian civilization in the education system from primary to upper secondary. And that is something to wonder about why. I hear from friends in Germany that they do study Mesopotamia in more details, and they know a lot about that. I wonder what the reasons behind this kind of interest by the German, or ignore kind of in the British education system. This is something we could flag for leaders and find out why is it exactly. The first Babylonian dynasty ruled for not a very long time, and while it was in existence and flourishing, another dynasty started a bit north to the part where Babylonian center was. So kind of in the northern part of Iraq and parts of Syria, and that was the Assyrian civilization. The Assyrian civilization started next to the Babylonian, then later on they took over and even destroyed Babel. This is probably normal in history. Empires come and rise and then decline, and other empires came to power and take over. The Assyrians' center was around an area, province in Iraq we call Mosul today, or Nineveh, and they had 3 different capitals during their time. They ruled since approximately 1800 BC and continued until 600 BC. So quite a long time they reigned. So there were 3 main capitals during that time. There was Nineveh, There was Namrud or Kaleh, and there was also Ashur, from the name Assyrian, Ashur. The Assyrian, actually, the people are Semitic people, one of the oldest groups that reached Mesopotamia, and they spoke one of the oldest Semitic languages, one dialect of Aramaic. It's still spoken today in the existing communities from the Assyrian background in northern Iraq and some parts of Syria. I think at some point the Assyrian expanded east and west and a bit to the north, and of course they conquered Babylon as well. They ruled over big parts of Iran, little bit of Turkey, all the eastern side of the Mediterranean, and they even conquered Egypt at some point. I'll pass it now to Rula to tell us some of the highlights of this empire.
Hello, yes. So, Assyria
Rula,
was...
can I just interrupt? There will be at 25 past. There's going to be just a commercial break for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back just to give you a heads up. But please continue.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem at all. So Ashurbanipal actually was a very famous ruler within Assyrian Empire, and he reigned from 669 BC to 631 BC. He conquered again the area surrounding, as mentioned earlier, covering parts of Iran and southern Mesopotamia, and parts of Egypt as well. So in terms of art and architecture, they built huge palaces everywhere and temples as well. They decorated the entrances and the main halls with large mythical creatures known as Lamassu. The Lamassu is a large Assyrian protective deity, and it's a hybrid creature, the body of a bull with 5 legs and a human head, with a head cover or crown kind of element as well, alongside 2 huge eagle-like wings. The height of these sculptures was more than 4 meters tall. Many of these Lamassus are now located in different museums across the world, including a couple of them being actually in the British Museum in London. I think I'm done actually, so we can cut to break if you want to or ask questions. You are on mute again, Anwar.
Sorry. Roxana usually gives us heads up that there is what do you call commercial break, and then it should be any minute now at 25 past anything. But I would certainly like to, until that heads up comes along. That's fascinating, Rula, what you kind of described, that some of these statues are also in the British Museum, so that people, Milton Keynes society or anywhere else, could actually go and have a not only look at the civilization, what they created, the statue, but the depth of instrument and the artistic element that went into that. It must be a phenomenal amount of time they must have spent on it, and the amount and the money to create that.
They definitely have spent a lot of time on these beautiful structures. I have to say also, at the British Museum, there are other elements to be seen. For example, they've actually uncovered the first known game even that is currently on display at the museum as well. Among other elements, so there's actually quite a bit to see from our history in the British Museum.
They have whole walls of
an entire wall element of just old scriptures, from cuneiform writing to, I guess, even telling stories as well, of kings and other people
And all
in
the
the area.
events, yeah.
And the
I think
events.
we can even hand into Ali because we still have some time,
Yeah.
according to Roxana.
Got the message from Roxana that the break is at 12:30, but definitely we can
Okay.
start with Dr. Ali, and then would love to come back as well with some thoughts about today's topic. It's so fascinating. Not everyone gets to hear live from people from, full of depth and interest. So, Ali, please, you got a few more minutes, and then we'll have a break, and we'll love to come back to you.
Thank you very much, Anwar. I'm going to talk about the library. And one of the most important achievements is the vast library in his palace at Nineveh, holding over 25,000 clay tablets, including letters, legends, astronomical, mathematical, medical work. I mean, imagine uh, we are trying to we do have library at home or the university, and 25,000 clay tablets is not easy to manage, even not to store as well. But that's something we are proud of as people from that area. And actually, the Assyrian recorded their achievements and victories, wars, and most of the important activities on walls, in art sculptures, to describe in details nearly everything. This is a huge collection of these. There is a huge collection of these in the British Museum as well. And also, there are some little interesting information about on a dinner party, the biggest dinner invitation in history in 1883 BC by King Ashur Spal II in Namrud, where it was in the capital of Assyria. The invitation extended to 70,000 people. I mean, imagine, Anwar, you did your iftar with 200 people, how much time you put? And Acer, you did the big iftar in Milton Keynes with, I don't know, 1,000? 70,000.
At some
That's
point, yes.
really, it's they raising the bar. We cannot achieve that. I haven't heard of that kind of 70,000 people
I hope
eating at
the
one time.
numbers are not too exaggerated, to be honest.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there are numbers about how many cows and calves being slaughtered for that, how much drink, etc., etc. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, Ashur Nasopal is Ashur Panipal's dad, and these two kings are the most famous in the Assyrian history. Um, so yeah, that shows, I guess, for them how powerful they were and how
Renowned.
wealthy and renowned. Yeah. Um, we could go into more details, but I really don't want to bore people with numbers
Yeah.
and yeah. But please
I
visit the British Museum. Lots of these are available there. Probably lucky for us people here to be able to access them.
sure.
Uh, uh, 2019, there was a whole exhibition about King Ashurbanipal and his achievement and what he built. It was fascinating.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. And first of all, we'd like to thank Radio Ramadan FM hosting this month of Ramadan, different aspects on virtually, different topics, engaging with society and Milton Keynes. It's been a pleasure being part of this journey, and would like to certainly thank the hidden gem, Ruxana, who's managing the virtual platform and bringing my guests, Dr. Ali and Aisha and Rula, great guests who've got a depth of information about the area of Mesopotamia and Babylonian Second Dynasty. So all our viewers, thank you for being patient with us and hearing the ads month of Ramadan, of giving donations. Charity is an important area. But also on 14th and 15th, we've got our celebration, the end of Ramadan, the Eid celebration at Campbell Park, which many of you have got stalls. And I hear a little birdie that we've got amongst us a guest. We've got a lovely, talented interior decorator who's working on a hidden gem project at some stage. He'll give us some snippets about this program and project. So, Aisha, welcome to the show, and Dr. Ali Al-Shabazz. Thank you very much, and Rula. Thank you for being very patient. And would you like to continue as we were just having a commercial break? Well, what I would like to say, Sadaka break, not commercial break. We don't do.
Okay, yes, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
It's unfortunate that we don't get to hear the adverts.
No,
But
no,
yeah,
no.
not a problem anyway.
True.
So we took you through a brief snippet journey through the first Babylonian dynasty and the Assyrian dynasty, which is the longest of them, all three of them. The third one is the Neo-Babylonian or the second Babylonian dynasty. And they followed the Assyrian Empire. They ruled between approximately 626 BC to 539 BC. So kind of short compared to how long it was, the Assyrian ruling. This second Babylonian era, the people of that kingdom or empire were the second Semitic people that reached the area of Iraq. In a way, they are cousins with the Assyrian, very, very close cousins. And they even spoke the same language, different dialect, but same language. And again, as I mentioned earlier about the Assyrian,
I suggest, can if I interrupt, when you say there's some similar language, would that be Aramaic dialect?
Yeah, Aramaic. Aramaic, yeah.
Oh, thank
Yeah, and the Assyrian called the northern dialect, and the Babylonian is called the southern dialect. They are still in existence today, spoken by these communities that we still have back in Iraq and in parts of Syria as well. But we also now have them all over the world, and we will come to talk about recent events and how that affected them, unfortunately, in a very bad way, actually. Generally speaking, the Babylonian were known for the Hanging Gardens, but that's something that we covered last year, and we discovered that it was actually not the Babylonian. It was which I mean, most of records speak about the Neo-Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, that he is the one that built them, but in recent discoveries by Professor Stephanie Daly. She found evidence that it was one of the kings in Assyria, Sanherib, who built that. And fortunately, now we can find some evidence on the existence of it. Hopefully, when the area is a bit more stable, more work can be done on that. I will let Rula talk to us about the main two kings of the Neo-Babylonian era.
Yes. So the main two kings were Nebuchadnezzar and his son Nebuchadnezzar the second. So Nebuchadnezzar ordered the build of the Ishtar gates and the ziggurats as well as the main road that was normally used for like a royal parade. And then additionally, the Babylon city was rebuilt by his father Nebuchadnezzar and of course Nebuchadnezzar. They built marvelous and massive structures like the Ishtar Gate. The city had to be rebuilt as a brand new city worthy of the name and status of Babylon as a world power in 500 BC. The city was constructed on both banks of the Euphrates River, with a bridge on stone pillars connecting the two sides. They built several temples and palaces with an 8-kilometer wall surrounding the city. And the road on top of that wall was so wide that two four-horse chariots could pass each other. It was that big. With 4 main gates to enter the city. Each gate was named after a god or goddess, with the most splendid, of course, being the Ishtar Gate. Ishtar is famous for being the goddess of both love and war. The Ishtar Gate was predominantly decorated with blue glazed bricks, inset with 3-dimensional sculptures of molded bricks, showing the bull of Adad, god of weather, and the snake dragon of Marduk, the chief god of Babylonian. I have to say, from an interior design background myself, I was amazed by their sheer, I guess, skills and amazing attention
craftsmanship.
to detail.
Yes, I read they were the great craftsmen. They had
Exactly,
a university,
yes.
great, people bringing from different villages and town, and they were sort of what we call the art school now. But they nurtured that art. They were very appreciative.
Yes, and very skilled in glazing bricks from centuries ago. And in fact, I believe that bricks and the whole process of them being glazed actually originated again in the Middle East.
Yeah, I think it's it's actually in Babylon.
Yeah, in Babylon.
And they were the first to create these very colorful. With glazing, you will have to have a good knowledge of chemicals to create these vibrant colors, the blue, the red, etc.
Yeah, what I would like to kind of inform our audience is that, what we see present day in 2022 in many spectrum, whether it's science, technology, culture, arts, AI, which Dr. Ali Shavas, who is great knowledgeable in that, all these they had roots in the civilization going all the way back to Babylonian in many forms and many ways of delivering. Sorry, Rula, can you expand on that?
Of course. So, from my personal research, I've come to know that we had the first libraries alongside the first hospitals. We even, I guess, created a lot of different elements, like the first wooden cartwheel and the first potter's wheel. We obviously had the first written language being cuneiform, among like a bountiful of elements that started and were developed within that region of Mesopotamia. So it's our history is so full of rich elements that almost dictate and kind of lead the way for how we live today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's fascinating, Rula, and it's very reflective. We should write a thesis on that, very much coming from the Middle Eastern
We
cultural
probably
group, and put that
should.
forward. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. There
We
is
are
depth in
trying
it.
to capture a few things via our projects, and hopefully next month, when we hold the workshops and the art in the park, people will be able to see snippets of things that we are trying to highlight at the moment.
Well, Isa, I welcome any information that you'd like to forward
Thank
to
you.
us, and we would like to kind of promote it. And this is the best platform to not only educate but celebrate Isa. This is the thing. We need to kind of celebrate, and we are lucky in Milton Keynes that we have people like yourself, Dr. Ali Sharbas, and the Middle Eastern Cultural Group, and
I'm
the great
humbled by that.
Arula. Sorry,
I am
absolutely.
humbled by
No,
that.
no, I know, and it is time that with the rulers, time and effort in collecting that information and having the snippets ready, people will be able to see it and meet and having dialogue and conversation and
Inshallah.
expand from a live radio show to when you meet people face to face. You pick up more nuances, you pick up more
Definitely.
information, and that's over the last 2 years. Because we were locked down, here is an opportunity to shine through at this
To
platform.
go back to life.
Yes. Uh, Dr. Ali, I would like to kind of bring in and take us flavor on what you started in this journey.
Thank you very much. Interesting conversation. I would like to talk about the astronomical observation. The Babylonian at this Babylonian era, they recorded astronomical observations in a really meticulous way. And after an accumulation of a data for generations, they accumulate a huge database of their observations, allowed them to predict mathematically future events, like when eclipse of both the sun and the moon are happen. And not only that, they started the theory, they call it the theory of the planets. So the Babylonian were the first civilization known to possess a functional theory of planets. And they have the oldest surviving planetary astronomical text in Babylonian about Venus as well, in the 7th century BC. A list of observations of motions of the planet Venus, and that probably dated as early as the second millennium BC. And really, we should be proud of that. But if you think about, I'm always possessed about the education side of it. I mean, how they develop that education, how I don't know. I don't have the answer actually, the real answer. What is the system? How is the funding? Do they have a research? Do they have a degree on that? Why people they go through the research? What is the reward? Is that something social value in it? I don't know. I would like to know. Probably it's written somewhere. But I'm asking this question: are there any apprenticeship system there? honestly, because
Maybe we
because
should highlight on that next time.
people spend centuries on developing this information, but also these people, they have their life, they have to fund, they have expensive. Who's doing that? Is it the government? Are there any other system? This is a question I would like to ask, and probably I will be keen to find the answer next year, Anwar. Thank you very much. I This is my
Invite us again.
No, 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 no. I would like to, continue because we never get such pleasure of particular coming from that part of the world. And Milton Keynes is a melting pot of diverse community. And if we look micro diverse in terms of Muslim community, we are, over 30,000 uh, members in this and diverse society within the Muslim society in itself, the micro society, and to have among us having people from the Iraq society, the Iraq community, but also who have seen how the destruction of Iraq during the war, but also how the younger generation are trying to preserve some of the best information and linking from the heritage point of view, like Laura is working on great project at the moment, how this can be take that forward, and that makes huge sense to everyone in Milton Keynes, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim. I thoroughly enjoy and learn quite a lot. And Dr. Ali, when he was talking about astronomy yesterday, the OU mentioned in Open University, the science department, and also BBC, there were planets in the solar system had aligned by itself, and they called it the dancing of the planet. And how beautiful that is, and that kind of reflect me Surah Yasin, verse 45 to 47, where it talks about the science, then how planets move around the solar system, those 4 verses. But yesterday, it was the OU and the BBC were actually saying, in this particular moment of lifetime, they were observing by NASA planets, merging and having a relationship through the solar system. They were calling it the dance in heaven. MashaAllah, we're having a dance in Milton Keynes now.
I wanted to also highlight one other thing
Please,
that we might expand on next year, maybe. And it's the House of Wisdom. And the House of Wisdom, in fact, was a very important place, again, based in Iraq, and back then Mesopotamia. And it's a place where people from all over the world travel to in order to better learn, develop, and further research different parts of our current day knowledge, from mathematics to astronomy, sciences, languages, literally anything you could think of to study. Even the arts were considered important back then.
That, Rula, would you mind telling our viewers and audience what would they be expecting the snippets in the Art in the Park Festival, the Eid Festival, and the Ramadan in your store? Give us some tantalizing, opening of the iftar, as they say on this radio station, that what wonderful things that we'll be able to have these flavors.
Of course. The one thing I don't want to do is give away too much. But I will say that it'll be very engaging. And I do hope that different audiences will come along and actually kind of experience a bit of our culture and our history, because it's going to be very artistic, I hope, and it should be quite fun for people of all ages.
You can tell them what the name is.
Of course.
Don't be too stingy.
The project is called Kanya Makan. which translates to once upon a time. And
Right.
the entire project is going through, I guess, storytelling through the community, and showcasing parts of our life in an interior setting that will be focused on the architecture and interior design of our regions, but potentially brought to life a bit more with a modern twist.
I'm sure I'll be there, and I love this. The theme, Once Upon a Time, is such symbolic. It's nostalgic, isn't it, Dr. Ali?
Well, the word kan Miyamakan, it's just to sit in the background in every single Arabic person, because the word itself, because it does have a link with my grandmother and father, because they start every single story with this word, once upon on a time, which is Kanya Makan. And Rola picked that smartly, because it does have an impact on ourselves, on our memories as people from that region, to be honest.
No, no, no. This is wonderful, and that has been the journey of Middle Eastern Cultural Group. You both founders, and were together. The ISA taking the lead as well, and she has been on this journey ever since. Once upon a time, you've taken us, the whole audience in Milton Keynes and other thing. What would Isa? What are the areas that you feel that, as we're coming to the end of the show, that one thought that you'd like to leave it with the audience to ponder about, and for them to kind of make their own research? What words would you like to leave and
I
share
would
with us
like,
from you?
thank you. I would like to say that we talked today about ancient civilizations, but what I would like people to understand that actually the Assyrian people and the Babylonian people, Chaldans and Assyrians, both are still very much existing today. They are not a banished kind of civilization far, far away from us. The people are still here. They are still very much an important part of Iraq and parts of Syria. Unfortunately, the recent decades and the uncertainty and instability in the area caused a lot of them to move. Now we have actually Kildan and Assyrian communities in so many places in America, in Detroit, in California, in Europe, in Sweden, and here in the UK. There are many also in Australia and in New Zealand. Both Assyrian and Kildan were the first people to join Christianity. Of course, they've been there before Christianity, but then they moved and joined Christianity at the early centuries, and they've been very faithful to their faith. Many people don't think that in the Middle East we have Christians, but actually we do. Those who had to move outside Iraq because all the horrible things that happened to them took their culture with them. They built their churches, they built their communities, they kept their language and the music, everything with them, probably for a reason. God knows why things happen. Maybe to make more people aware or of their existence and their culture and even their misery. So I am hoping that we are learning at some point from these bad experiences, and hopefully we will become better people.
Well, things sometimes are difficult, and we are pushed, or nature unfolds itself and pushes us in that direction, only to bounce better for the future, and showcase and tell their story in Milton Keynes or further than Milton Keynes. I'm a great fan of Middle Eastern Cultural Group and get invited
And we are great
frequently.
fans of your work.
I know by Dr. Ali, and he's a very cheeky. If people who have never met him, Dr. Ali is a very cheeky person, you know. And
He doesn't look it today, does he?
I know it's Ramadan period, but it's just a thought that I'd like to leave and something to ponder about, and for my guest as well, to have a workshop so people can understand the several languages spoken in that region. I uh, I haven't heard Aramaic spoken, and it's a beautiful language.
It
But
is.
would love to have a workshop in one of your gathering that you do on Friday, or we could arrange together in partnership at Melis Restaurant that
Yeah,
we work
yeah.
every 2 months on mental health and young people. Would love to capture and bring the flavors once upon a time using Rula's theme and focus on the languages, that how there's a correlation, there's a science behind it. It's just a
Yes,
thought that I
yes.
like to live with all you three. Thank you very much for coming to this radio show once again, and no doubt you'll be joining us next year. But also, I would like to thank Radio Ramadan and the management and Roxana for
Yes.
the support, but all our viewers that keep safe, well, and drink lot of water when you're opening your iftar. Wherever you are, enjoy the day, family day with yourself, and we all look forward to meeting you all on May the 14th at Campbell Park to be part of this great work Laura has described and much more. Thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anwar.
Thank you very much, Anwar. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for the radio, Ramadan as well.
Thank you.